Hello and welcome back to another episode on the channel. In today's video we're going to be covering some of the most common mistakes that students make at university during their first year. So with that being said, let's get straight into things. So the first mistake that I see first year students make a lot of the time is that they rush into their housing contracts. So a lot of people I see, they're automatically the first people they meet would assume they're best friends forever, sign a housing contract straight away, and then sometimes those friendships might not always work out a little bit later down the line. So what I would say is hang out a little bit. Obviously you don't want to wait too long, but just don't rush into a housing contract straight away. Make sure you're definitely comfortable in the friend group you're with, because you're going to meet so many people at university, and then sign a housing contract from there. There's no rush to sign it straight away as soon as you arrive in first year. Also, another advantage of not signing a housing contract straight away ahead of going into a house in second or third year is that you want to make sure you get a reliable letting agent, as sometimes if you can just sign a house straight away, you might not end up with the best landlord. So make sure you look at all your options as well, so that you've got not only a secure and stable friendship group living in a house with people you want to live with, but also that you've got the best option available for the best price package that you're paying. Next piece of advice is to make sure you've got a card of some form to make payments on, as a lot of places nowadays are moving digital or contactless or card rather than using cash. So for example, our student union over at Loughborough, they operate on a no cash system. So like I say, make sure you can sort out a card payment of one form or another. The next mistake that I see students make is that they don't back up their work regularly. Now, you've all probably heard at one point or another a horror story where someone's got a deadline due in, the day before the deadline their computer crashes and they've lost all their work. So to make sure that doesn't happen to you, I would say make sure you're backing up your work regularly. Also, another common mistake that I see people make is not making use of all the student discounts they have. So make sure you sign up to all the student discount cards available. I'll put a few links in the description box to make sure you're signed up to everything available, because honestly, the amount of money you can save as a student using these cards is pretty ridiculous in the long run. Not budgeting is another mistake that I see a lot of students make, especially when they first arrive at university. So make sure you've got just like a rough idea of how to budget, whether it be when you go grocery shopping or you decide to set yourself out a monthly calendar of how much you want to budget for a month or a week or a year. So I would just recommend budgeting, because if you don't keep a track of your spendings, it's easy, especially I see a lot of students when they go contactless, especially on nights out in the union, just tapping away, you don't really recognise your spending, and then by the end of the night they've got a pretty hefty bill. So my advice to students is to make sure that you have a budget of one form or another. Another really common mistake that I see students make is worrying about not knowing everything or making mistakes. Now, I'll admit I was guilty of this during my first year. I was so concerned about making mistakes or not knowing everything, and it's absolutely perfectly fine. So the way that first year works as well is it's set up so that your grade in first year actually doesn't contribute to your final degree classification. So first year is basically designed to set you up for second and third year, make mistakes, trial things out, and just get used to university and everything that university has on offer. So like I say, don't worry about making mistakes ahead of going into first year of uni. This ties in nicely to my next piece of advice. Is I see a lot of students throughout the rest of the year, after fresh is over, they don't always get engaged with all the extracurricular activity available throughout the rest of the year. And this is such a big mistake, because the amount of opportunities that you can have at university, the amount of cool things you can try out is unlimited, and first year is the perfect chance to make the most of all these resources and just try out as much as possible while you can still get the chance. So make sure beyond Freshers Week that you're still getting involved in some extracurricular activity trying out things, and make the most of the university experience. When it comes to packing for university, often students are faced with the question of, have I packed too much or have I not packed enough? And my best piece of advice to overcome this common mistake is to check out the video on my channel where I've covered everything you'll need for university when packing. Sometimes you'll also see first year students make the mistake of perhaps assuming that university is exactly the same as sixth form, and it's not. There is so many differences between university and sixth form, with the biggest being the amount of freedom you get at university. So sixth form, obviously, you have, if you miss a deadline, you've got someone on your back, either a teacher, head teacher, etc. Whereas at university, it's up to you when you do your work, and if you miss a deadline, then that's your responsibility. It's your degree getting affected. No one's going to chase you, but it becomes all your responsibility. So the biggest difference, like I say, between sixth form and university is the amount of flexibility and the amount of independence you have. I'll perhaps in the future do an in-depth coverage behind the differences between sixth form life and life at university, But yeah, a lot of students make the mistake of perhaps assuming the two are very similar, when in fact there's actually a lot more differences and a lot more freedom when it comes to university. Also, at university, it's the first time for a lot of people where they're living away from home, so it's up to you to do things like your laundry and cooking. So a big piece of advice is to make sure you can cook at least a few basics. A lot of people, perhaps, sometimes you'll be surprised they go into university and they can't cook at all, and if they're not catered every single day of the week, then it becomes a slight issue. So just make sure ahead of coming to university you can cook a few really basic things. You don't have to be the next Gordon Ramsay or the next Jamie Oliver, just a few basic dishes that can get you by so that you can survive when you're not being catered for on those days. And the final piece of advice is either taking first year too seriously or not seriously enough. Now, like with most things, there is a level in the middle which you want to hit the sweet spot between. So you want to take first year seriously to an extent, so when it comes to second and third year, you know how to do your basics like referencing, because otherwise it will catch up on you and you will fall behind in second and third year. But like I said earlier in the video, first year you want to make the most of all the opportunities you've got available to you. Get involved in as many sports, societies, extracurricular activities, get involved in all of it, because university is a place where you have so many resources and so many opportunities going on pretty much every day, or if not every weekend. So make sure you're making the use of your time, make sure you're making the most of the experience, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and most of the times you're probably not going to get an opportunity like this again in your life. So that's been all for today's video. If you have found the video useful, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you've got any questions or queries, leave me a comment down below. And until next time, I wish you guys all the best, and I'll see you very, very soon.